solution to having this end. There's risks with implementing various plans without knowing the cause and effect.
I'd like to talk to you next about the kind of communication within the OPS at the time, as well as communications between OPS and its external partners. Starting first with internal communications. What do you remember of the kind of communications challenges or successes around this time?
So communication happens on multiple levels. And if we're talking about communication at briefings to ensure that everyone is aware of what's going on and what's expected of them, we were working very hard at trying to get that right, because there was different groups of officers with getting different information. We have to be realistic in this. This was a unprecedented situation that we were in, and everyone was doing their best to try and do what we needed to do. So it's not laying blame or fault. It's just those were some real challenges that we were experiencing. There were so many things that need to be thought about and implemented. There was also a communication piece internally to our members in general as to what's happening. And that was something that we heard very loud and clear, that there wasn't a lot of internal messaging within the organization to understand what we're trying to do, what's the objectives, what do we need from our members.
Let me take you to your summary and see if that's something you said at the interview reflects what you just told us. If we go to page 12. The very last sentence, he stated that they were demoralized because they were not informed. Can we carry on? They were not informed that there was an overall plan and were not provided clear instructions, such as instructions concerning their authority to seize fuel and what to do with seized fuel. He stated that members in the OPS had limited knowledge on what was going on and what was happening next, or who was in charge. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Does that relate to what you were just telling us?
Yes.
Now, you went on to say he had been informed that Chief Slowly confused members by going down to the OPS parade room and telling members to get out onto the streets to deal with problems. Superintendent Bernier observed that many OPS officers were attempting to do the right thing and come up with solutions, but that they may not have had the proper background and training to do what was needed. Well, first of all, you said you had been informed. Who informed you about what you said about Mr. Slowly?
Word does get around in the organization, so that is something that I had heard that had transpired.
You don't remember who was the person? Who was the source?
I don't.
And what was the context? Do you remember in which this, what's the parade room?
So every division, we have 3 divisions with the Ottawa Police. Every division and station within a division has something called a parade room, where officers are briefed at the start of every shift and given their instructions for the shift, what unit they'll be assigned to, and any taskings that they have.
What about communications between the OPS and its external partners?
I cannot speak to that. I'm not. I don't know what communication was happening externally. I don't have any particular access to that information.
Can we go to page 6 of the interview summary? Do you see the paragraph under OPS use of RCMP and OPP officers? Superintendent Bernier observed that between February 3rd and 10th, OPS was using RCMP and OPP officers to relieve OPS officers who were exhausted and not as part of a plan to end the occupation. He stated that he was aware that OPP officers were often not receiving instructions or assignments from OPS during this period. Was that an example of a communication issue?
So yeah, there was a bit of a breakdown, and that's something that we had to adjust even within my purview. That the Service Command Center, in liaising with whatever agency was coming in as part of that briefing element, that was something that we recognized and had to adjust to ensure. Once again, this is quite extraordinary circumstances where we had officers coming from, maybe a handful of officers from various municipal services. We had OPP officers who were going to different locations. We had RCMP officers who were briefing out of another location. So it took us quite a while to get that coordinated piece to ensure that the messaging that they were getting was consistent for all officers that were being deployed. It unfortunately was a reality at the early onset of this, and we made every effort to correct that.
Right. So up to now, we've been talking about events before you were appointed event commander, and that happened on the 10th. Am I right?
Correct. In the evening.
So you told us during the interview that there was a condition to your acceptance of this appointment. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. The one condition is that I wanted to have some separation between myself and the chief, and to just be directly liaising with the strategic commander.
Why did you make that a condition of your acceptance of this appointment?
Through observation and experience that I'd been seeing throughout, some challenges with both at the tactical level and the operational, the event commander level, that albeit intending to try and resolve the situation, it was causing a breakdown of the incident command structure. I wanted to ensure that I was going to go into a model that was going to respect the incident command model that I've trained under, that I know, that I recognize and tried, tested, and true.
So you referred to observations and experiences. Tell us more about those observations and experiences that caused you concern.
So throughout the period in my involvement in the Service Command Center, I was able to be privy to various conference calls, different direction being given. I would want to have a deputy event commander working with me, given what I knew was going to be needed to get us out the other end. In which case, I requested a specific person,
Who was that?
Inspector Dave Springer.
Why him?
He's from the OPP. He is a major critical incident commander that I know, have worked with before. He was actually one of my instructors for the critical incident command course in Aurelia, the OPP, and I knew that I would be able to have a valuable support element with Inspector Springer.
What did Deputy Chief Ferguson say?
She said she would ask to see if that would be possible.
Any other request from you?
Yes, that I would need some autonomy with regards to decision-making and implementing plans, and that to trust me that I was going to find the solution and lead us out the other end of this.
What did she say?
She said she'll do her best to provide me with what I needed.
So there were quite a few conditions that you made. Any others?
They're conditions, but I really did want to line this up for success. I did see that we've gone through multiple event commanders, and I just did not want this to be the next one.
Mm-hmm. So before you were appointed event commander, I suppose you made these observations, and did you make any attempt to correct anything that you saw problematic during the earlier period?
It's somewhat difficult to do that. I would offer any advice or recommendation, no different than as we reviewed in the scribe notes when the deputy was asking me for something. I tried to realign that to follow the proper channels so that the right people are informed and making the decisions, making those requests. There are odds and ends that I would have provided recommendations, but at the end of the day, to not undermine the autonomy and authority of the various levels of command, we respect that. Mm-hmm. And allow them to do what they feel is what's needed.
And did you feel sufficiently assured by Deputy Chief Ferguson to take on the job?
Yes.
So when did you accept the appointment? Did you accept it on the same day?
That's correct, on the 10th in the late afternoon. That was with Deputy Ferguson.
And what became your immediate priorities?
So what I requested was that I needed to take some time the following day. I need to get some rest, and then take some time the next day with, if I was able to get Inspector Springer, I would need some time with him to sit down, evaluate everything that we had, and reestablish a mission statement, a main action plan, objectives, and a command structure.
Okay, so let me take you to the scribe notes again. OPS 30s. OPS 30s 10050. So we go first to page 3. Scroll down. Now you see the part where it says, scroll up again a little bit. Also express concern about taking on that role. And it goes on and talk about some of the concerns you just told us about, right? We go further down to page 4, the next page. You advise her that you would consider taking this on, but would need to discuss a rest period, assign a proper command control model. So you told us about the command control model. What about the rest period?
I did go home and I did sleep that night and came back in the next morning. So I got some rest that night.
All right. And then further down, as well as building a proper team. Is that what you talked about?
That is correct. So establishing that command and control, I had a vision as to how I would want to set up an integrated command table team and who I would need around it. And I want to discuss a little bit more wholesome with Inspector Springer to ensure that I was not missing anything or get his input as well to this, as we were going to be a team moving into this.
Right. So it may be, I wonder if it's earlier on the page, you talked to us about wanting some distance between yourself and the former chief Slowly. How was that concern in particular addressed?
I request, at this particular time, I requested that Deputy Chief Ferguson be the go-between.
Okay.
And that would be appropriate. If she's the strategic commander, the chief would be dealing with the strategic commander for any of his wishes or direction. And it's up to the strategic commander then to filter to the event command level, the operational level, as to what is needed to be done. And when I'm saying what is at a very high level. What are the high level objectives?
And so you started by saying at this time that she was the go-between.
Correct.
Did that change at some point?
Yes, as we built out, and once again, I talked to you about that structure, we incorporated an executive liaison person there was a lot of meetings and a lot of requests to attend meetings, which as long as I have the strategic direction, I need a lot of time to get the job done to do the work. And having an executive liaison as a go-between would create that efficiency and effectiveness that the executive would still be informed and have an avenue to be able to be in touch with me.
And who was that person?
Superintendent Drummond.
When did that happen?
Happened relatively quickly. Would be within probably somewhere between the 11th and the 12th. I would say maybe the 11th or the 12th.
Okay, let's see if this will help refresh your memory. OPS 30-10371 at page 4. Actually, let's stay there. We'll note the date, February 12th, and then we go to page 4. Do you see the first line?
Yes.
Drummond to keep the position of executive liaison. Is that what you told us just now?
Correct.
And so he would become the new go-between, so to speak.
Yes, because I'm wanting to quickly align the people. If Deputy Ferguson was going to be the strategic commander, that is her role. So I want to ensure that I wasn't having her in a position where it would not allow her to do her function as well.
Okay, so you accepted the appointment. You had a good night of sleep, I hope. And then the next day, what happened?
I went to my office, which I hadn't been to in quite some time, and arranged to meet with my scribe and as well as with Inspector Springer. This was around mid-afternoon. I met with my scribe around noon just to set some ground rules, expectations of what we were going to be embarking on. And I'd lined up a meeting with Inspector Springer for mid-afternoon, which we met in the comm center boardroom.
I want to take you to your notes where you set out a whole list of priorities. This can be found at OPS 30-10050. page 7, please. So we see a list here. We agree that the command post would be set up in the NCRCC objectives of today. So I'll let you take a look at the list. We can scroll down when you're ready.
So would you like me to say what they are?
Sorry?
I agree that these are the objectives that I.
Right. I'd like you to take a look at the whole list and then explain to us what they are and why they were important to you.
Okay.
Can we scroll down? I think there are 6 listed there. So, oh, there's more than
There's quite a few there, yes.
So tell us about these objectives. Why, and did the number suggest their importance?
Level of importance, I'm going to say they were all very important. And this is what I was doing was somewhat trying to do a bit of a reset and setting up a solid foundation that we were going to be based on to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
All these elements are key elements from an incident command standpoint that is required, that needs to be in place and formalized and adhered to promote success in your mission.
Was this an attempt to course correct when you said reset?
Yes.
So why did you start with the mission statement, which was number 1?
For any operation, a mission statement is that foundation piece that everything is built off of. Everything that you do, everything that you, when you're making a decision, whether to take action or not action, it needs to align with the mission statement. That's why it's a very important foundational piece.
And what about the second one, the new command control structure? Can we go back up to the number 2? Yeah.
So
tell us about that.
In order to have success, it is not one person that is going to bring you success. In an incident command model, you do have to surround yourself with some key subject matter experts that are going to be able to properly inform you and to make proper decision making.
What was the third point?
We were going to pick who we needed at that table to have success. And then pick incident commanders because of the protractedness of this. We want to make sure that whoever was running the NCRCC from a operational to tactical level, that there's a rotation of people who will be effective in maintaining that level of operation day to day until we come up with our ultimate solution to end this.
Okay, so let's talk about some of these priorities. First, with respect to the mission statement, maybe the same document. We go down to page 11.
Should be in my notes there.
Page 11. 1501, I think is the time I'm looking for. So is that what you decided upon as the mission statement?
That is correct.
Can you read this to us?
Using an integrated response, the Ottawa Police and policing partners keep the peace, enforce legislation, maintain public safety for the duration of the Ottawa truck demonstration with the utmost respect to the individual's Charter of Rights, to peaceful assembly, freedom of speech, officer and community safety and well-being.
Now, we might have seen the same mission statement before on what we call the February 13th plan. Do you know the one I'm referring to?
That's correct.
So we may look at that a bit later, but this statement, as currently phrased in your notebook or the scribe notes, was it the same as what was put into the February 13th plan?
So it's definitely, I would say, very accurate. If there might be a word here or there, if we want to do a comparison, I'd be happy to do a comparison with the plan,
Right.
just to ensure if you'd like to. But I'm quite satisfied that the gist of everything that I was trying to outline this is there.
Okay, so given the importance you attach to mission statement, let's unpack this a little bit. If we go back up to the beginning of this statement, first, you said using an integrated response. What is an integrated response and why was that important to you?
So integrated is meaning that we're going to be depending on various different specialty elements to come to a successful resolution. It's not going to be necessarily one particular section that's going to resolve this. In other words, it's just not public order. It's not just PLT. It's going to be an integration, but it even goes beyond that. It's going to be an integration with many of our policing partners that are going to be part of the solution.
And the next element I want to turn your attention to is the utmost respect to the individual's charter rights of protest. Well, freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and so on. Why is that important?
We can never lose sight as to lawful protests that may be part or lawful peaceful assemblies. And we have to respect everyone's charter of rights with everything that we do in the operation.
So, and then the third element, I think if we scroll back up, there's a reference to enforce legislation, right? But to
Yes.
do so in a way that ensure to keep the peace and safety and so on. Tell us the importance about that.
They're all high-level guiding principles, keeping the peace, enforcing legislation, and that comes at legislation at multiple levels, right up to the federal level, provincial and municipal. Maintaining public safety, so everything we should be doing should be moving towards ensuring public safety for the duration of this event that's taking place.
Now, we know that you also developed a main action plan, right?
Correct.
What was that about?
So the main action plan is a high-level statement of where do we want to get to.
Now, in the interest of time, I won't take you to another document, but it's found in your witness summary, and it basically say to de-escalate and negotiate a peaceful resolution and demobilization of the Ottawa truck demonstration. Am I correct?
Correct.
Can you elaborate on that?
Ideally, the best resolution is a peaceful resolution and have everyone leave peacefully. But in the event that that's not going to happen, it is going to be demobilized at the end of the day.
Okay. Now, so that was your priority number one, to develop the main, the mission statement. You also mentioned the importance of clarifying command and control structure. So I want to take you to OPP 402163. I believe this is an organizational chart. So if we go further to the right, Now, is this what you developed on the 11th?
Yeah, yes, I'm seeing parts of it, but the parts that I'm seeing is, yes, accurate.
So explain this to us. How did you come up with this structure, and why did it make sense to you then?
So I don't know if you're able to reduce it so you can see
we
the
reduce it?
bigger picture. So it starts to delineate who's at the strategic level and who the strategic commander is.
Can we go to the very top? That's right. So at the top, the OPS command team. Who's that?
That would be your chief, deputies, CAO.
So he'd be at the strategic level?
He is at the highest strategic level that would be reporting to or who would be responsible for the strategic commander.
Between the former chief and the deputy chief Ferguson, there are these two boxes, the legal and the communications. What's the significance of putting them there?
So that is fed through the strategic command and belongs at the strategic level with regards to legal advice. Not to say that corporate communications doesn't exist down at the operational level, but those are the key support elements that are found up at the executive level.
Right. Now, when you were working on this organizational chart on the 11th, and this chart suggests that it is only the OPS command team at the top. There's no reference to the OPP or the RCMP. So when we read earlier in your notes and your mission that this is supposed to be an integrated approach, did integration to your mind then refer to integration with external services such as the OPP or the RCMP?
There's a difference between integrated and unified.
Explain the difference to us, please.
So in this particular case, this is a single event commander with an integrated command team, command table that's supporting it. When you're talking about a unified command, is that you're going to have multiple commanders of equal value forming the top event command positions. That's what we did eventually move into with the RCMP and the OPP. But this is the model that was implemented upon me taking command and for the next few days.
Right. Now, you told us that based on your observations and experiences in the earlier part of the Convoy event, there were issues that you observed. And when you're now the event commander, did you make any attempt to, like when you said reset, what was that reset? Like how were you correcting what you thought was not working before?
Once again, as I mentioned, I think there's a lot of people trying to do a lot of good things. So what I'm trying to establish here is getting all those people around the table to work together to come up with the final plan, because it will not be successful without those elements around the table with me. And that's why, as you can see, my command table has key elements to ensure that everyone has the voice and feeds me right information to be able to make informed and proper decisions.
So I apologize. I realized I wasn't specific enough. So for example, taking the Coventry or the Rideau Sussex incident, how would this command structure be able to improve on what was problematic as you've described before?
So we're going to be getting feedback from whether it be the police liaison team, could be the public order commanders, it could be a resourcing piece, whether from the Service Command Center liaison, that everyone would be able to feed into. This is what we were wanting to do. This is how we're going to try and do it. Who has what to say about this? And this is where we might find where there's risks or issues that need to be, and I'll use the term again, NRA. Is it necessary? Is it risk effective? Is it acceptable what we're going to do? I have everyone around the table, from the investigations, from the intelligence, feeding us all the proper information we need to make quick and proper decisions.
So for example, we see at your command table, POU chief, right? Is that public order unit?
That's correct.
And now next to the POU, there's a small redaction.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why that's redacted, and it should be PLT chief.
Okay. So Wallace,
So Wallace was a mistake in spelling.
but Wallace
It-
was,
Walker.
oh, okay. And I see. And Walker was part of the OPP
Correct.
PLT team.
Correct.
And then we see further to the left, executive liaison, acting superintendent Drummond.
Yep.
And that speaks to your concern about keeping some distance with the.
There's a combination of things. It's establishing a healthy communication channel. So to ensure that the executive being properly informed, properly kept up to date, as well as an avenue to be able to feed something to me if I needed to know something from that level.
And the intelligence part is also represented at this table by Inspector Bryden.
Correct.
Now, going back to the blue box near the top, how does putting the communication piece there help ensure or improve communications?
So communications is, and if you want to scroll down, there's another piece to it that's down at my level, the far right with the media. And media chief was not necessarily a proper term. It's more of a general corporate communications that assisted me with all messaging. Anything that would go out to the media would be drafted up and sent to me for approval before it was to be sent out. And similarly, messaging internally, messaging to partners would be all, and messaging with PLT would be worked in unison with that piece.
Okay, and then for both you and for your deputy, there are scribes who record things while you were busy doing things.
Correct.
All right. Now, so this is what you achieved on the 11th of February. We've heard that this integrated planning group has arrived in Ottawa since the 8th. When did you first have a conversation with anyone in that group about your new plan?
I'd have to refer to my notes to know exactly, but it would be either the following day, so this is the 11th, so I'm thinking it's the 12th, could be the 13th, that I actually had a conversation with a member of the integrated planning team.
Okay, perhaps before we talk about your work with that group, let's first talk about what you did with this plan that you started to develop yourself on the 11th. What was your next step once you've had this command structure clarified, your missions and statement and main action plan at least outlined? What else did you do?
There was a check-in that needed to take place. It's my understanding that Deputy Ferguson was taking some time off, and that Deputy Bell was taking over. I felt it probably appropriate to brief up to my strategic commander, who Deputy Bell was taking that position while Deputy Ferguson was off, to provide an update as to the work that had been achieved that day in establishing the foundation that we're talking about here.
So did you touch base with Deputy Chief Bell on the 11th?
That is correct.
Do you know what time?
I would have to refer to my notes.
Did
It
you,
was later in the afternoon. It was
Right.
around dinner time.
did you also meet or talk to the chief?
My recollection says that there was a conversation with the chief.
Okay, let me take you to your notes. OPS 301050. I'm going to take you to page 17. If we go down to 18, looks like 1820. Actually, go up a little bit. So 1814 recorded information from you to the chief just to point out. Can you read that to us, please?
Yeah, just to point out, other services are sending, but with strings attached.
What did you mean by that?
From what we were getting from the Service Command Center team is that there were requests for, if they were going to come, they would like to have static positions, not necessarily want to get into other quick response teams. And there was sometimes challenges with getting them to do enforcement pieces that would be required if that was the case. That was historically what we were seeing in my previous role.
So during this discussion with the chief, were you talking about this new plan that you're trying to develop?
Correct.
And you see at, I'm not sure what time it is after 1814. What's the next entry?
1815.
1815. And there's a notation that the chief said to you, I'm okay with everything you said, requested, with your email at org chart and mission. Tell us your best recollection about that conversation.
I presented the whole background reasoning of what I was doing and why I was doing it. This affirmed to me that the chief was understanding what I was saying and that we were doing that reset, so to speak.
Now, when you call it a reset, how much of what you were doing was based on or derived from the February 9th plan, the 3.0 plan?
I'll have to be honest. I did not necessarily, at this particular point in time, know what portion of it is, what portion I perhaps would use or adopt. This is quite in the infancy, where there was going to be a bit of work to be done over the next few days, not discounting any good ideas that may be out there and analyze everything. Because at this point, I wasn't aware that there was an integrated planning team. I was preparing myself to have to put together a strong planning team to come up with an eventual final plan to get this done. So at this point, as I mentioned, I was going to be directing somebody to start based on clear expectations, developing a plan, but perhaps not discounting some good elements that would have been in there.
Now, let me take you to the next document, OPS 30144454. I believe these are notes taken by legal counsel of the OPS, Ms. Hanaud. If we can go to page 160, please. If we go down a bit. So we see a reference to the chief saying, want LS. Is that legal services?
I can only assume you'd have to ask Christiane, but I would say that that would make sense.
Do you recall having a discussion with the chief about this, that the chief expressed a desire to have the legal services to look at the new proposed mission statement and whether we need to change the current one?
No.
Okay. Can I take you to Moments Intelligence?
Do you know when will be a good time to break? Because as I understand this witness, you're going to be quite a bit longer, so it's going to carry over in any event.
That is true. It may make sense to break now and to carry on tomorrow.
Okay, is this a convenient time?
As good as any.
Okay, well, I'd suggest then we break till tomorrow, if that's agreeable to you also.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you're happy to end the day at 6:30. Okay, so we'll break till tomorrow morning at 9:30, and we will complete the in chief and then go to cross examinations. Okay,
Your Honor.
thank you.
The commission is adjourned. La commission est adjournée.
Okay, so that wraps up day 9 of the inquiry into the use of the Emergencies Act by Justin Trudeau and the Liberal NDP coalition government in Canada as they did their best to break up the Freedom Convoy protest. Testimony from police officers today, senior police officers, administrators. At times very technical, maybe even a little bit dry, but critical and crucial as the lawyers dug in deep and tried to extract statements and information that they can use in the end to support their arguments and final positions, which we will get a better handle on when they present their final arguments and statements at the end of the inquiry. Of course, what we'll end up with in the very end is a report and maybe some recommendations. So this testimony from Robert Bernier of the Ottawa Police Service, again, pretty technical. I think he has been choosing his words very carefully. I think that the sense that I get from his testimony is that in real life, while working and while going through this experience with the convoy, he was at times questioning the strategy, the approach that was being taken by the police service, and was maybe even at times vocal about it and was sharing his concerns. But while on the stand testifying, I think he's pulling back a little bit and not revealing the extent to which he was fully engaged in questioning what was going on. We've seen throughout the testimony over the last 9 days that there was a lot of dysfunction within the Ottawa Police Service. Now, I can tell you as well that today, Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who received a summons to appear before the commission to testify, is pushing back. He doesn't want to. It isn't exactly clear why, other than a statement that was issued today by the Premier saying that he feels this is more of a policing matter rather than a political matter. Although I don't know how much more political any protest could get than the one we saw in Ottawa with the truckers and the freedom protesters. The entire thing was about government policy as it related to the pandemic, but I think it was, honestly, and I think the Maverick family here, our viewers, will agree with me when I say, in reality, it was about much more than that, and it continues to be about much more than that. It's about government overreach. It's about government attitude. It's about a lot of these policies that have been an assault on our rights and freedoms, whether it's directly related to the pandemic and the mandates and lockdowns and the masking and all of these mandatory jab policies or whatever they might be. Those are the issues that were on the table up front during the convoy, but we're also looking at other issues surrounding government affiliation with WEF ideology and policies, the globalist agenda. That's really, what it comes down to. And that affects not just the pandemic, not just those mandates. It's now pretty clear, I think, to all those waking up that what we're really dealing with here are issues that affect everything from, our economy, inflation, taxation, energy, environmental policies, healthcare, eugenics, vaccines. The list goes on and on and on. The housing crisis, immigration, racism, discrimination, education, sexism. Where does it stop? I don't know. I'm just not sure. Well, it is 6:38, and I do have another broadcast set up. So what we'll do is we'll take about a 20-minute break. We lost our Facebook feed again. Today it was later than it has been on other days. I'm not sure why. There were other things that were kind of wonky with the feed today as it was going out on the multi-stream. So thank you to all those who weathered that little storm, that technical glitch. I did reestablish the Facebook feed through another stream to the various Facebook platforms or pages. So it did get reestablished, but yeah, there was a disruption there again today. It only goes until about 3, 4 o'clock, and then they cut it off every day. So I'm not sure what exactly is going on with Facebook, but not cool. In any event, we're up there. So yeah, we'll take a brief break. It'll give me a chance to catch my breath here. And I have a whole bunch of other news lined up, from Biden getting his newest jabby jab to a conservative political canvasser who had the crap beaten out of him by some people who don't like his politics, I guess. And we're going to talk about the dirty bomb scare. We'll bring that up too. So, man, I'll tell you, no shortage of news, and it's hard to keep up, but we will do our best to keep you informed here on the Maverick News Channel. So we'll regroup and reconvene, and I'll see you in about 20 minutes. Same time, well, different time, 20 minutes, same channel on the flip side. Thanks, everybody.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.